Throughout the country, people are planting seeds of innovation, harvesting a bounty of ideas to help care for the only home we have, planet Earth. With billions of people on Earth, it is more important than ever to open our eyes and minds to alternative ideas, both new and old, about food, energy, resources, health, housing, and more. The core of sustainability is meeting the needs of today's society without compromising the world for future generations. In this series, our field reporters will explore eco-friendly ideas and lifestyles that help to make our world a little bit better. Welcome to My World Too, short stories of sustainable living and earthly innovations. In Lawrence, Kansas, there is a store dedicated to the world of beekeeping, a hobby with great benefits for our planet that can keep you busy as a bee.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything really as important to sustainability overall as the honeybee. And because of the pollination, because of the fact they show what's going on in our environment, so they're very, very important. I'm Tony Schwager. We're here in Lawrence, Kansas. My wife, my son, and myself own and operate the bee store here in Lawrence. Oh, we've had bees for about 20 years, and we started because my son, when he was 11, he saw a video at school, and he decided that he wanted to get bees, so we told him no. That didn't last very long. He was very persistent, so we got bees as part of his 4-H project, and just kind of it grew a hobby and then grew a business from there. And then about 3 years ago, my wife told me she wanted to get a bee store. She's always right. It's been really a boon for our business because all kinds of things that we really couldn't do at home and do well at home, we were able to do here.
We're at the Lawrence Farmers Market, and we're currently selling here until about 11:30.
So my son, he is 32 now. He has some developmental disabilities. He's probably mentally like a 7th grader or 8th grader, you know, so he's definitely capable of doing everything. He really loves the farmers market.
When we first started, we just had these little put-on fairs. We had a table about that big, and now we have bigger sizes. We have lip balm, lotion, everything you think of.
When he was just yay big, he'd sit down at the farmer's market with a little table and a dozen bears of honey and sell those. And then of course he got excited about that because he met new people and made a few bucks on the side. My son's name is Anthony, and the business is called Anthony's Beehive. He's the face and the passion. He's the reason that we really wanted to kind of open a store and build the business. So there's something there for him to continue. Because when you have a disability, it's very hard to support yourself with dignity. It's hard enough if you don't have a disability, and this is kind of an answer to that challenge for him. Well, when customers come in the bee store for the first time, I kind of jokingly tell them we have bee stuff and we have bee stuff. And what I mean by that is we have the bee products. We have the honey and the pollen and the wax and the lotion and the lip balm and stuff made from honeybees and their products. And then we also have bee stuff, which by that I mean the bee boxes, the hives, the kits, the tools, the smoker, the protective gear. Customers really like the fact they can refill their honey jars. That way, it's kind of a win-win deal. We're not buying labels and jars, and they're not throwing their plastic container in the trash.
So what I do at the bee store is basically making products, helping customers, kind of do a lot of different stuff just because that's the nature of a local business. I'm personally a beekeeper as well. That's how I found this business to begin with. And I really like bees. I think that they're fascinating.
At the bee store, we do put a big emphasis on education. In fact, the biggest part of our business overall is probably helping folks get started with bees. We have a lot of customers that are 1st and 2nd year beekeepers. We do classes almost year round. The wild bee population has declined quite a bit, but there's more folks than ever keeping bees. When they want to know where to start, it's a hobby where you need a mentor, you need a little bit of hand holding and some help to get started, so we fill that role. So some of the basic stuff you need to get started if you're going to be keeping bees, you'll need the bee boxes, which you provide those. Inside the bee boxes, we put frames with foundation in them. As long as you provide the foundation for the bees, they'll build where you want them to. That way we can manage the bees in a way that really help them thrive and help them maximize their honey production and make it easier to harvest and help them out. So when you see those white boxes out in the field of a beehive, there's a bottom. There's generally 2 boxes, depends what part of the country you're in. That's where the bees store their eggs, their larvae, their nests, and do all their bee stuff. Once you've helped them successfully fill those boxes, then you add a shallower box like this on top. This is called a super. This honey will typically be surplus honey that you can go ahead and harvest before winter, as long as you've done a great job of managing the bees down below so they have enough for their own needs. The beekeepers have got to be very careful and very skilled and even be able to predict the weather. If you take too much honey, the bees won't have enough to get through winter. So beekeepers are very careful to first make sure the bees have adequate stores for the winter, and then whatever is deemed to be surplus from there is what can be harvested. So busy as a bee, that's an expression you hear all the time. It's probably actually an extreme understatement. To make 2 pounds of honey, bees will visit 4 million flowers. They're actually so busy in the spring and in the summer that their lifespan is only 3 weeks because all they do is work 24 hours a day. They might be out in the field during the day, but in the evening, they're in the hive, they're still cleaning, they're still feeding larvae. So bees, you start thinking about 1 pound of honey that you get from your bees, and an average hive on an average year might make 60 pounds of surplus honey. Well, that comes in 80% water, it has to be dried down. So just for the 1 pound of honey, the bees have visited millions of flowers. And when you start out a colony in the spring, you start with what's called a nucleus or a package, just a few thousand bees and a queen. We kind of, as beekeepers, we don't really manipulate bees. We kind of help get things out of the way that might be obstacles. And if you do that, that queen will start laying a couple thousand eggs a day. You know, the hive will grow just exponentially. We started our business it's probably been over 20 years ago, when people had a swarm of bees or had a hive living in a barn or a house. You know, they would call us or find us on the internet, and first thing, they wanted those bees gone. They wanted them killed, removed, didn't matter. And now every single call that we get, because of the awareness people have of how important bees are, every single call, within the first 30 seconds of that call, people will say, we don't want them killed, we want them saved, we want them moved. So if you come across a swarm of bees, leave them alone. They really aren't much of a threat. The bees, bees will sting to defend their home. Well, a swarm of bees is actually temporarily homeless. So their stinging behavior, their stinging instinct is way down. You should be able to call the local extension office. Most extension offices will have a list of beekeepers that will come out and take the swarm. But just the value of those wild bees, those are good genetics that survived all winter without any help from humans. So those are valuable bees to a beekeeper. So bees provide a lot more than just honey. People really think about bees and right away think about honey. The bee pollen is a very good product. It's probably the most complete, all-natural supplement that's out there. It's proteins and vitamins, amino acids. We do an awful lot with beeswax. Beeswax is a great lubricant. It's great in cosmetics. So propolis is a low-grade wax that bees use in their hive for construction purposes, to seal cracks. Propolis is antifungal, antibacterial, antiviral. It's one of the greatest substances out there for any type of health benefit. Folks will take it orally. They'll put it in salves to put on wounds and things like that. The wild bee population has taken quite a hit. For the last 20 years, it's been devastated by a mite called the varroa mite. But the bees also have to deal with, with chemicals, with spraying, with just all kinds of factors out there in the wild that challenge them.
Well, without bees, we wouldn't have first red bulls, and if we didn't have that, then in a few short years, the animal kingdom and us would be, gone, just like that.
So by keeping bees, people are keeping that population up. As the wild bees decline, the number of actual beekeepers and hobbyists and even small business and even big business type beekeepers, maintains that population, which is essential for the pollination. So it's probably easier than ever to get into bees. First thing is all 50 states through the land grant system, they all have an extension service. Every single county has an extension agent that can help you get started in bees. There's a huge number of beekeeping clubs. Again, it's probably a hobby where you need a mentor. I'm sure there are stores like the Bee Store, other parts of the country. In the springtime, you'll find a lot of existing beekeepers. As part of their business, they're selling bees and they're hosting classes, doing things like that. So there's a lot of ways to get into beekeeping. And a lot of folks out there that'll help you. So if you're thinking about getting into bees, our advice to folks when they come in, I tell them to get off the fence. A lot of folks have thought about it for years. Next thing you know, those years are all behind you. So, find a mentor, find a club, find your extension agent, but get off the fence and get some bees. There really is no downside except for the occasional sting. So if you can tolerate that, do the earth a favor and get some bees.
A major metro in the heart of the USA has discovered the true value of offering a free ride. Let's discover why this innovative concept is an investment in community.
A lost my vision about 8 years ago. And when I did, it was scary. It was scary because when I would go from downtown out to the suburbs and then I get dropped off for a meeting or something, how was I supposed to get back? Because if I wanted to go in that city or across that county line from one place to another, I couldn't do it because I didn't qualify for their service. I wasn't signed up for that service. So I would stand on the corner and practically start crying because I didn't know what to do or how to get anywhere. We've come from there to where we are now 5 years later, to where you're sitting right now in the cornerstone of a $56 million investment in a corridor, in the Prospect Corridor. And as a part of that investment, it wasn't just about putting rubber and steel on a street. It was about how are you gonna make this accessible? How are you gonna make your community better? If you can just stay away from the fact that you're just trying to take a bus from A to B and that you're actually trying to help people and help connect the community, that's a whole different optic, and that's what we're looking for here.
So Richard, can you tell me, where are we right now? What is this room?
This is the Regional Operations Center. It's where we have communications with all of the buses, all of the supervisory vehicles, all the maintenance vehicles in the fleet, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
So Richard, from this room, you have an accurate view of where every bus that's currently in service is.
Exactly. And this covers the entire region. We go as far west to western Wyandotte County, south basically to the southern edge of the metro, north to the airport. The entire region can be covered from here.
Talk to me a little bit about the challenges you have here in Kansas City. You're a major metropolitan area, but you also span multiple counties, multiple cities, multiple states. Can you talk to me just a little bit about the complexities that are involved there?
Not as much complex in terms of operations as it is in funding, dispatching, and actually getting the service on the street. It makes for a real challenge when we're talking about routes that cross through different jurisdictions. A route that may start downtown, may go north, may go through North Kansas City, may go through Gladstone, may go on up to the airport. You're going through 4 different communities.
First thing we did to make this system more accessible, if you will, is bringing us all together, okay? 5 years ago, we didn't even have a map of all the different transit agencies and modes within this region, okay? You practically needed a passport to go from downtown Kansas City out to Johnson County.
And that's the big challenge, putting this together as one regional system so the customers really don't see that jurisdictional boundary when they're on the bus.
And how many buses are in your fleet?
We have about 238 active buses right now, and the peak period is about 204 of those will be on the street at any one time in the peak periods of the day.
Richard, can you talk to me about the advantages of the different types of buses you have? You have compressed natural gas, diesel, and an electric bus, is that correct?
That's correct. We have our first all-electric bus here now. Our fleet is a mixed fuel fleet. The majority of the buses in our fleet are compressed natural gas. We still have quite a few diesels. Compressed natural gas has served us very well because of the cost differential between it and diesel fuel. And we're very pleased with the performance we have with compressed natural gas. But the industry is starting that move to all electric. We're excited about that, and we're really looking forward to trying our first electric bus.
Richard, I know that Kansas City is sort of unique in terms of your zero fare initiative.
Yes, and there are some challenges with it. We think the benefits far outweigh those challenges.
I truly believe that in Kansas City that we're very innovative. None of it works, in my opinion, without the next step, and the next step is zero fare.
We began zero fare with Prospect Max in December of 2019.
This isn't an idea about just flipping a switch and all of a sudden, hey, everything's free. This agency has systematically and methodically moved in that direction for the last 4.5 years. We started by making veterans, letting all veterans ride free within the region. We were the only ones in the nation to do that. But now any veteran working with the VA and working with our local veterans agencies, now any veteran could go down, get a card, and be able to ride public transit for free. Then we moved and went to the school districts. The local Kansas City School District, as well as Hickman Mills, Center, North Kansas City, and we said, look, let's start with seniors, juniors and seniors, and let's see. So that was the second step. Third step, we started working with safety net providers, domestic violence shelters, mental health stuff, homeless service agencies, that kind of thing.
When COVID hit, in order to protect our operators, protect our passengers, we made it zero fare on all of our routes. So you didn't have an interaction with an operator paying your fare. You could minimize those touch points. So we've been operating zero fare now, system-wide, since March of 2020.
Our fee is $1.50, okay? That's our fare to ride one of our buses. If you take that $1.50 out of the mix and it doesn't come to the ATA, if you take that money and actually put it where it belongs, which is with the taxpayers, that's a bigger deal. And I'll go one step further. You put that $1.50 back in somebody's pocket, Mrs. Johnson over on Prospect with her 2 kids now has an extra, what, $1,500, $2,000 a year to spend. Where's that money gonna go? Okay, it's not gonna go to some tax shelter in the Bahamas. It's gonna go right back into the community.
Unlike other communities that suffered devastating losses of ridership, our ridership has declined to about 80% of pre-COVID levels. One of the reasons for that, we believe, is zero fare. It's made it easy for people to get on and off the bus, and it's made it safer for people to get on and off the bus. This is our bus storage building. This is where all the buses that are not scheduled for overnight maintenance will spend the night after they come in for the runs. Right now, it's fairly empty. We're near the peak of operations. Most of the buses are out on the street doing their job right now. You will note different sizes, different shapes, different colors of buses. One of the things we do is try to right-size the bus to the route. We want the most efficient service we can get. We don't want to run a large bus when a smaller, more efficient bus will do. So you'll see different sizes over here are our mini buses. We have local buses that are in blue, 40-foot and 30-foot size buses there, and then we have our max BRT buses. This one here, for instance, see the roof line, that's CNG, compressed natural gas tanks on the roof. You'll see the flatter roof, our diesel, and then we have our one electric bus over here in the corner as well.
So Richard, this is the electric bus, I take it?
This is it, our very first. Right now we're learning about the bus. We are very excited to have it here. It's supposed to have some really good operating characteristics. 200-mile range between charges. Should be very quiet. You don't have any engine noise. And it should be some smooth riding. And of course, there are no emissions coming off the bus. So we think this is the wave of the future for transit. But we need to understand how this bus will perform in Kansas City. A lot of people don't realize we are not flat in Kansas City. We have hills, and that's going to impact our range and our operating. We have extremes of weather, from very hot in the summer, very cold in the winter. What does that do to the battery life and the range of that vehicle? So we want to get it in service as soon as possible, get our operators and our mechanics trained on it, and actually start gathering that data.
This is an impressive facility. It takes a whole lot to move people around a city.
Yes, it does. A lot of different people, a lot of different skills and talents. It's challenging, but also very exciting.
Public transportation is that one thing. It's that glue, all right? Whether it's healthcare access, education access, job access, access to equality and inclusion. Public transit is that thing. It brings all of it together. You pick anything you want that a city, urban city or a rural city is dealing with right now, and I'll tell you how public transit fits into that picture. I mean, I finally work in an agency where the mission statement is exactly what it should be, and we mean it, connecting people to opportunities. That's your job. And if you can get everybody around in your agency around that simple theme, then anybody from pushing a broom to the C-suite can get that, and they know that they're gonna come to work. And you know what I tell my folks all the time? In this job, you can affect more people's lives than most people get to do in a lifetime. And that's what they do. That's what they do every day.
Meet a man who not only practices sustainability, but writes and teaches about the greater value of regenerative farming, making the world better for the future.
So this 120-acre farm is where my wife Joanna and I live and live out much of our days trying to live as sustainable a life as we can.
So Hank, thank you for having us out here today. This is truly a piece of paradise. Will you share with us where we are and what you have going on here?
Yeah, that's great. You know, we call this place Prairie Turnip Farm. We named it after a native plant that grows here. We are trying to improve the land, build soil through the use of livestock, rotational grazing. We believe in diversity. And so you'll see lots of different wildflowers and weeds that feed the bees, feed the sheep, and feed the soil.
In fact, I notice, I think a lot of times people see a farm like this and they see weeds and it's like, wow, they don't take care of that.
Yeah, no, that's, it's such a common sort of myth from the days of when we plowed the soil clean. Everybody talked about the farm being neat and tidy and in control. And we discovered that we actually mined the soil, we depleted the soil. We needed more chemical inputs in order to pull a crop off or even to grow pasture. So, our approach is that the land will tell us what it needs. It will grow what is capable of growing at that point in time, and then we'll impact it through the use of typically animals, and then it changes from season to season, it changes from year to year. We would be on the periphery of what would be called regenerative agriculture these days, because we're really looking at soil, we're really concerned with the soil. But we also firmly believe that agriculture can happen without chemicals, period. Fertilizers, pesticides of any kind, herbicides, whatever. Yeah, I'm lucky enough to be able to, work in the publishing world in a realm that is near and dear to my heart. It's passion, it's my life. So Mother Earth News, it's a magazine devoted to self-reliance, really, with a sort of gentle earth footprint, if you will. It's about sustainability, but also doing for yourself in that sort of frame. I think it's important for people to recognize that we have limited resources, that we should be thinking of ways to, approach renewable resources to the extent that we can. So it makes good sense for me. I get to work, so to speak, in an area that I'm completely passionate about, that I like to live, my lifestyle.
So you're practicing what you preach.
Yeah, totally. My wife, Joanna, is a full partner in this operation, and she looks after the dogs. We've got a bunch of livestock guardian dogs. She looks after the chickens, most of the poultry. She collects the eggs. She runs the egg business. She also makes soap and runs the soap business. She's my, consultant on all things bees, because she's raised bees for about 25 years.
So Hank, it sounds a little bit like we're in a menagerie. Can you share with us the animals that you have here on the farm?
Totally. Well, first of all, you have to enjoy your space, and you have to enjoy the creatures that share that space with you. And Joanne and I really love fowl and poultry. So we've got guinea hens, mostly hens, but they're fowl. And they take care of the ticks, some of the grasshoppers. But I mean, our yard and the farmstead area are pretty well tick-free. That's what they go for. We have ducks and geese because we like duck eggs, and the geese sort of guard some of the rest of the poultry from, small predators, some raccoons and whatnot. Chickens, of course, we eat, and we eat the eggs of, and we also have a business selling meat chickens and eggs. And then our sort of big, in the business world, it would be a profit center, right, such as it is, would be hair sheep. And it's a landrace breed that I actually developed that's suited to the environment here at this farm and our management practices. And so that's the biggest piece of our puzzle. They help us manage the grassland and in the process build soil. We also have some cattle, and cattle do a different sort of thing to the land that the sheep don't. They complement each other on the same pastures. And so I brought in some highland cattle. So we raise bees all over the property, and we don't buy them. We actually either lure natural swarms from around the area in, or we set little traps for them up in the trees around the farm. And what that does for us is it brings in bees that are genetically adapted to the environment here.
So Hank, share with us, what's this here?
Well, so we call them swarm catchers. If you take a look at the dimensions of it, it's the same cross-sectional dimension as the hives that we use. Okay, a healthy bee colony, it will expand its numbers until it's too large for the container or the hive, the space that it's inhabiting. And about half of the bees will leave with the original queen to find a new place to colonize. And the new colony will find a box, perhaps it's this, perhaps it's another hollow in a tree, and that's actually how bees sort of propagate themselves.
Is it fair to say you're not necessarily raising bees, you're borrowing bees?
Yeah, I
in a
think
sense?
or we're giving them a place to live. And we provide additional houses for them every year. We promote the wildflowers here because for us, having the bees thriving is every bit as important as trying to sell some bee products to our customers.
Well, you have a beautiful place, and we really appreciate you sharing it with us.
Yeah, thanks. I'm so glad you guys could come out.
Thank you, and best of luck to you, Hank.
How much glass do you get per day?
Per day it can be over 100 tons, or even a little more, a little less. In a year, we recycle over 40,000 tons of glass.
Passive solar is simply orienting the home actually slightly southeast of due south.
Yeah, so this is all the hard work that you've seen happen today.